Welcome to the Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show will have a talk about Linux project, such as Linux distribution, a desktop environment, an application, or some crazy AI thing. Could be, who knows? It's always a crazy night here, right? We also chat about it in the news or any variety of topics from the community. Anything that's Linux, tech, and open source related is on the table for discussion. Hi, I'm Nate, a Linux, fitness, and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession with the OpenSUSE project. And with me today, I got Penguin, Jinda, Colin, Sean, Eric, Ben's iPhone. So Ben won't be here, but his iPhone will, and Ulfnick. I think I did that joke before. So it's, yeah. Oh, and then Ricky is coming in to, so if, Ricky, if you're in trouble, does somebody call you Richard? Anyway, I just thought I'd ask. It seems like that's what we do. So be sure to do the straw poll. It's another fun straw poll about your overall Linux experience now to when you first started using Linux. So check that out, that straw poll. I'm sure Jinda will put it out there because that's what Jinda does. And feel free to join if you're in the Zoom and you really want to get your face or your avatar here and have your voice heard. Feel free to join the Zoom. I would love to have you in here. So first, coming up, we're going to review that straw poll. Going to do our Ulfnick AI night where we're going to look at, I want to say diffused impressions, but that's not the right what it's called. What is it called, Ulfnick? I could. Yes. So things that I don't know what those mean, and I like that. Okay, well, as long as it works. We'll do some housekeeping, talk about what's coming up next week, do a community free pour. We're going to talk about Ben's Storm OS since he skipped out on us last week. It's okay. I'm only slightly offended. Not really. I'm not offended at all. A little sad, but I'm okay. And but first, we're doing Linux and tech. I want to share a little bit here, something real quick, nothing major, but I've been playing with ESP32s, or actually in this case, it is, hold on here. My old man eyes can't see it. I think I just told ESP8266 little microcontrollers. These are fun little things for all kinds of goofy little projects. And what I've been doing is putting lights in my kitchen so I can have like kind of mood lighting or just kind of subdued, just some dim lights in there. Because like in the middle of the night when you need like a glass of water, for whatever reason, you just get up and you don't want to like turn on the lights and and then, you can't think to fade them on anyway. So just very subdued lighting above the cabinets, below the cabinets, so above the counter. And I've been using these like little strip lights here, putting like underneath the counter. I've got 2 installed. In fact, I did the last one right before we went live, like 10 minutes before I put up one more because I was just very, very excited about doing it. And so far, I really like the effect. It looks good. I'll put a picture of my slightly messy kitchen in the Telegram. So if that is motivation to join Telegram so you can see how messy my kitchen is on the day of doing this, there you go. Right at the mess, yeah. It's not like food mess. It's just like, there's a pair of side cutters and then like a pair of scissors and, some other things. They're surprise. Yeah, I think there's the Stanley Parable. I think what is it called? I can't remember the name of it right now offhand. But yeah, there's a. Oh, go ahead. Oh my gosh, I totally messed this up.
All right, so now we know where your loyalty stands.
Exactly.
Your mic's a bit scratchy too, by the way.
It's a bit scratchy too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is.
recently.
It's always like that, though, to be honest.
I think
it's pretty bad tonight.
I think it's coming through on the Zoom because I did maybe someone can tell me if it's scratchy on the YouTube end because I think sometimes like Zoom distorts it. but I can try and
Yeah.
do a thing here.
I'm getting a little distortion.
A little
the
distortion.
Nate only show.
It's probably
They only
better.
show.
Yeah, it's probably better for the audience, honestly.
Uh,
Yeah, well,
Probably. Nobody wants to hear my opinion.
yeah, exactly. So, welcome everybody. I should have thought to unmute you quicker. I need to put a little note in the show notes that says what not to, what I need to do. So I'm not sure if I'm.
Actually, Steve said you're copying him.
Well, I do. I try and emulate Steve as much as possible. So Adam says it sounds fine on YouTube, so it must be Zoom that's giving headaches on your end. So hey, sorry for the scratchiness on your end, but Adam says good to go. Thank you, Don, for calling me out and saying I can only hear me. You didn't really miss much because I was
wow.
talking mostly. Anyway.
Yeah, our contributions.
Well, no, actually, I'm hoping that like one of you will pick it up. Hello, Seeker. Welcome. That's a very nice chair behind you. Is that like, it's like nice wooden? Is that like a maple? Is that maple wood or?
Oh
is that...
wait, you're.
I don't know. No, I was muted. Hello, boys. Gentlemen, I should say. Gentlemen. Yeah, that's an old. Yeah, I guess it is maple wood. It's actually.
Yeah.
It's real wood. So yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. I like that. I don't know why, but like I just really like that chair. It just or stool. Whatever.
This is a brand new office.
Did
too.
you steal that from my house? Because I got the exact chair right in my
I
house.
went out to the backyard where you had it. You threw it away because I had a little bit of white paint on it. I picked it up and brought it home. That's all.
That's good.
I had memories of Michael and his stool for a moment there.
Oh yeah, I had kind of forgotten about that.
Oh yeah, Nate. I just want to point this out. Seeker is also one of the guys on the StormOS team. He makes all
Oh.
the Python stuff in the distro.
I'm
So
the one who makes
Sweet.
all that
Right
stuff
on.
with the help of GPT.
he makes all the helper tools and the custom browser and all that we're going to talk about later.
Oh my gosh,
Oh.
Penguin's got a similar chair. His the back where it connects the vertical back support bars. That's a little bit different interface between
It is.
Seekers and Penguins.
Yeah.
Little different. It's a minor
Just like
difference.
his curtains are ever so slightly different than mine as well.
Yeah, it's like everything that Penguin does is just slightly off.
Just slightly different.
Just slightly different, yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
Wait, I'm drinking
You
a beer
stole
on
my
live-
curtains,
live
Eric.
TV.
I mean,
so very exciting. We have a great show for you today. And let's go ahead and, Eric, if you want to kick it off to the straw poll, since I think the microcontroller conversation is dead in the water. So go ahead and,
Okay.
and go forward.
All right, sounds good. So, with our straw poll this evening or for this week, is the Linux experience overall better now or worse than when you started? Now, I would be hard pressed to think that anyone is having a worse experience, but I suppose that could depend on how long you've been using Linux. I think if you were using it long enough ago, that it would be almost impossible to argue that it's harder today, maybe unless you have some kind of like specialty hardware or you just really hate some sort of modern incantation of like a system D or something like that.
Well, I was thinking, so let's say you were a big fan of the Unity, the Unity desktop.
Okay,
So that, and then now Unity is no longer available. So
true.
it might, you might say
Well,
that it's
No,
Unity
it's still
wasn't
available.
available, but it is
Yeah.
now. Yeah, it wasn't,
is.
but
Yeah,
it
it
is.
is.
Yeah.
I use Ubuntu Unity right now, so yeah, it is available now.
Keep him straight, Penguin. You know,
I
seriously.
don't know. I use XFCE right now.
Yeah. So let's say that Unity is not officially supported like it was, and you were one of the few people that didn't complain about it while it was officially supported, because that seemed to be the way that things went for Canonical. And honestly, of course, for the first few releases, it was pretty terrible, and then it got good, and people still love to hate on it because hey, it's Canonical, it's fun to do. And then it goes away, and everyone's like, "Oh,
Right.
wait a minute, we loved Unity." Oh, okay, now you love Unity. Well, and again, they replaced it with GNOME 3, so it was kind of like you go from this now mature Unity system that has all these bells and whistles to, at that point in time, GNOME 3, I would argue, was much less mature than
Yeah, it was a
something.
mess back then.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that wasn't the most popular decision, but anyway. So I got you. That is a possibility. So let's talk about what the results are then. So it's pretty unanimous. 70, almost 71%, 24 votes say that it's much better. With a resurgence in popularity this week, we have Tux Penguin coming in at number 2 at almost 12% or 4 votes. And then we have 3 votes for better, just better instead of much better. And then we have 1 vote for a little better, 1 vote for about the same, and 1 vote for other. And then we have a pretty lengthy reply that I'll go ahead and read. Well, we actually have a couple replies. So the first reply: since the fall of 1995 till now, there's no doubt it is light years better now. I agree with that. I want to go back to when I could run Linux on a 245 megabyte hard drive with a whopping 512K of memory. LOL.
I think you actually can do that.
Probably, yeah, you're probably right.
And
Yeah.
I will justify that in just a moment. You keep at it. All right.
Okay. You'd have to be high to think Linux was not massively improved over the years. My first distro was Red Hat 4.2. I also touched Mandrake, SUSE, and Yellow Dog. Even Fedora Core 1 was a significant improvement over the earlier ones. I can't argue with that. It's absolutely true. The next one's a little longer, so we have so much better. As I said, I was here circa Pop! OS video from LTT, and Pop! OS helped a lot with their documentation and PopShop. PopShop made finding things easy, and compared to other app stores, it was much more responsive and straightforward to use. It even have a Lutris installer, which was annoying to do back then, as their Flatpak version didn't really exist yet. As soon as I got off Pop! OS, I noticed how much more manual work you need to put in on Linux. I went to Manjaro next, and it initially was confusing, and their Manjaro driver tool and PAMEC had multiple sources, and sometimes it just didn't work. Sometimes you have to deal with random mess of dependencies, or have to look up some long instructions and command lines to do something. Nowadays, you install everything from Flatpak. And barring a few things like network host messaging, which many users won't know, and the kit is the cause for some of their issues, everything mostly just works. Snaps actually are fairly usable for GUI apps. There's so much less breakage and conflicts in Arch and AUR, even on Manjaro. Tools like containers and Nix are slowly being brought to the less expert users as well. Even AppImage is starting to update their stuff, which I agree. I've noticed that. A lot of my app images can update in place, which they've always been able to. It was developers weren't taking advantage of it, but I digress. Not to mention all the GUI tools in general. Manjaro Welcome used to be exceptional. Now most distros that aren't aiming to be super vanilla have a great welcome tour that lets you get installing everything that you may need from the single app. You can install Linux, and you can quite possibly not need to deal with the CLI if all you do is browse, do office work, and game. Even then, some small gaps like USB pass-through and remote desktops getting worked in portals to work for everyone on every distro, DE, and protocol. We are so much better than 5 years ago now, and next year is looking to be even better, with many portals and Wayland work to make everything just work. So thank you for the very in-depth response, and I completely agree with all of that. Sounds like that Linux or Linus Tech Tips video on Pop! OS actually drew in some people. I always wonder about that. I see those videos and I think, does anybody actually respond and think, oh, I'll try that? So Interesting to see that someone did. The next response, since my first attempt to Linux around 2002, it's orders of magnitude better to use now. From 2018, when I started using it as my one and only, it has improved some. And you can see the things on the horizon which are going to make it better and better for users. They would be things, that would be those things that people are arguing about today with religious fervor, which will quite shortly just be the modern way of doing things. I assume they're talking about Wayland and immutable, probably. And the arguers will be on the next savior heresy argument.
I was kind of thinking that the things we're arguing about today, I mean, they'll be like System D. Remember, like, I think it was probably 10 years ago when System D was like, it was such a hot topic. And then, like,
Yep.
I remember, like, when that all happened, like, I don't care. It loads faster.
Well, and I think the thing is that at the time, it wasn't as refined and polished as it is today because not everybody was using it yet. And then once everybody started using it, it just got better and better and better to where now today, I mean, sure, if you just have some sort of fundamental disagreement with the way System D works, that's your own prerogative, but that's going to be much more of like a political or philosophical stance. It's not a functional one. Like, it's kind of hard to look at System D now and say it doesn't work.
Right.
It works. Back then you could have said, well, in this case or this case, just like Wayland is today, where, and it affects me, where I look at things and I go, well, I don't know if this doesn't work and that doesn't work, but it's going to get better, especially when people like Fedora and others start pushing it more heavily. So anyway, I think this is going to be heavily influenced by when someone started using Linux. There you go. Thank you.
Yep. For sure.
And Eris's response being, there's no such thing as being unbiased. So that is true. Any surprises? Any thoughts on this? Does anyone here think that it's that it's more difficult today than it was back then?
So I think that's it's an interesting kind of discussion point, because like on one side, like, what do you consider better or worse? Is it your ability to have, I mean, is it for like recreational? It might not be as recreational as it once was, but at the same time, it's a lot more functional and I have a lot more options, but at the same time, I have a lot more blobs now too. So it really depends on like what your lens is. But I do want to hit some of these comments in the chat here real quick. So Ron Singh says, been a refugee from MS since late 2016, almost 7 years on. It says defo much better. Definitely. That's what defo means, I'm sure. That's what's the kids say these days, right? Defo? Is that what it is? Much better experience for me, Linux, mostly because in the last 7 years, it gave me a shot at trying two major lines in various desktop environments. And then Leo said, I voted other. So he's one of those, huh? As Linux has improved overall, but things fluctuate. Before it was Pulse and Pipewire, and nowadays it's the pain of switching to Wayland. So a little worse in some ways, sometimes. And I thought that was a very interesting point of view. And then Ron says, Ubuntu 16.04 was excellent. 18.04 was troublesome. 20.04 has been excellent. 22.04 has been quirky. At least it's been my experience with the Ubuntu distros. So that's kind of the up and down as well. So that I sort of feel like that depends on like where it hits for you for when you started and where you are today as to whether things are better or worse. Was it Penguin? Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's much better since when I started first used it in 2009, I believe, like 2009, 2008. Oh no, 2007. Because I'm like, back then you couldn't really do anything as far as the desktop goes without serious modifications. You couldn't even play a video file without hunting down the codecs to play it. So to me, it's much better.
I can't hear you, Eric.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
That'd be why. So if you look back and you think about like what were the differentiations between distros and what made certain distros become popular back then it was really all about being easier to get up and running and use. To take this computer that was absolutely built for Windows and probably had marginal support, and that was the first sort of hurdle. Let's get the hardware working. Let's not have to hack the Xorg config file and, set up your Sound Blaster card and set up all these your monitor refresh rates and like all this goofy stuff that you used to have to deal with. Those distros that made it easy became more popular for good reason. But I would say today it's kind of hard to stand on that and say like, well, our distro is easy to use. Well, they're pretty much all easy to use at this point. I mean, unless you're talking about something that is intentionally like more challenging or more advanced, that has an expectation that of you as a user to put in the effort to like tweak things or configure things individually yourself, everything's easy to use. Mostly because it's all based on other things, right? I mean, there's so many things that are based on Ubuntu, which has done so much of this heavy lifting to make stuff easier. So, I mean, I think that's a huge contrast between what distros were trying to do then and what they do today. Sean, go ahead.
Yeah. So just to kind of chime in here and make the point, if you have been using any operating system for long enough, I would argue that it is probably better than when you started. Except for maybe, if your computer boots into BASIC, like Commodore 64 or VIC-20, that experience has stayed pretty much the same. But aside from that,
yes,
anything that you have used for a long time has probably gotten better in one way or another, and it may have actually gotten a little worse in certain respects, but when we look at things like tracking and telemetry and pushing ads through the operating system to you, but overall, I'd say they're on an improved trajectory. So
it's funny you bring up older hardware, and it's half jokingly, but if you had a 32-bit system that you had been using at the time of the cutoff, and you were sort of just left hanging, like I could imagine that was something that you would then maybe answer the question a little differently, where no, it's not easier to use because the hardware I was using is no longer supported.
Or the requirements are so steep now, it's not an enjoyable experience on my hardware.
Yeah. So
I think just going back to what Ron Singh was saying, the ups and downs of the Ubuntu releases. I mean, it's no different to the Windows releases, to be honest. They have a good one, they have a bad one, they have a good one, they have a bad one. And I think also the ups and downs is the change in technology. So they're trying to catch up with technology, and then maybe it doesn't work so good. Then you take a step back, and then next major release it takes a step forward. I think that also. I'm not sure. I'm just saying it possibly could be that as well. But that's your ups and downs. It's like a roller coaster, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
With a lot of distros, really, or operating systems.
Yeah, I think you're right. Ricky, go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
I had a microphone problem. There we go. Essentially, as a person who's used Linux for about 5 years now, when I came into this in 2018, it was pretty much a new ball game for me. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I was basically at that point a post-Windows user who's used Windows for many different years. And I think when it comes to coming into this, the one thing I've learned is there's an adjustment period that it usually takes a little bit of time to be met, because you got to figure out as a Windows user what's gonna benefit me, what's gonna benefit my hardware. And for so many years it was distro hop, and finally, after about 5 years, found the perfect one that fits like a glove. Linux Mint. That's it.
Yeah, that's good. That's an excellent perspective. I would throw the argument out, and I'm not trying to play the like, well, I've been using Linux for 20 years card, but you know, I think if you were a Windows
have you been using it
user,
for 20 years?
I have. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think if you go back over 20 years, actually, no. Yeah. 2001. So 22 years.
Oh,
If you go back, and so when I started using Linux, I was using it on the server because I had tried desktop and it was literally a nightmare. Like I ended up spending so much time trying to get it to work that I was like, what am I doing? Like, I don't, this is not fun. I don't need to do this. This is silly. Like I've got work to do, you know? And so I kind of just said, I don't care if there's a desktop side to Linux. Like it's brilliant on a server. That's all I need. I'm just going to do that. And I did that for a couple of years. And then it finally stuff started getting a little better. You know, you had Mandrake and you had Ubuntu and you had other things. And it's because they made it easier to start using. Although even they required a lot of tweaking on the hardware and stuff. So to Ricky's point, you know, he was coming in at a point where you could just sort of install whatever. And unless you had cutting edge brand new hardware, most cases it was just going to get up and running. And unless you nuked your Windows installation or did something that left a bad taste in your mouth, like you probably were okay with that switch. And then, yeah, there's definitely a learning curve. Like this isn't Windows and what do I need to do? And what is a repository? And what's the, you know, all this sort of stuff. But if you had to go through that and all of the hardware junk too, back in the day, like that, I think that was why back then it was always a joke that, you know, the year of the Linux desktop, it was like, it's too damn hard for people to use. Like normal people can't use this. Are you kidding me? Whereas today, I honestly think there's very little difference in most cases between us. If all you're doing, like to the one comment I read, where if you're using Office applications and browsing the web and doing like really basic stuff on your computer, you use the update manager, like, yeah, I don't really think you need to go to the command line. And I think you just use it for what it is. So it's a little bit.
Well, you get.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, look, you know, a lot of, for a long time, I've been using Arch Linux for like the last 2 years. Now, most of my life, I could probably just settle on Linux Mint and be done with it. But I've just, I knew nothing about Linux. I was never into tech. I knew nothing about tech. I just run Windows. Used to mess around with that. But coming into Linux, absolutely knew nothing about it. Didn't understand all this GTK and Qt and all this stuff that they've got going there, you know, all these different desktop environments. It took me a long time to realize what that was all about. But I'm just using the Arch Baits with the Easy Archer tools to spin up my own ISOs because I'm just challenging myself because I don't know, for some reason, Linux just got me into this learning mode, right? I mean, sometimes learning can be one of those things. If you find it interesting, you're willing to learn, but you just got to find that thing that gets you excited about something to learn, you know, which is sometimes doesn't come around very much in life. So that to me was just something that I thought I just wanted to go that extra step. Otherwise, yeah, I think you're right. Linux Mint, I'd be on that for sure. I mean, that's one of the, you know, I've got a sister-in-law put on her computer. All she does is banking and stuff. She doesn't use Office applications, nothing. She knows nothing about it, but it works, right?
Yeah.
And a computer starts up and it doesn't take 10 minutes to get to a desktop. Right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, it's much better.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just it. It's all in your use case. Seeker, did you have a comment?
he did have his hand up.
He does have his hand up.
Now he's got his finger up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my dog is sitting on my lap right now.
Okay.
I've been using Linux since, I think even Ben might remember this, when we first met up, I was using Ubuntu
It
12.04.
was around 2013 or 2014.
Yeah, it's 12.04, right? 12.04?
Yeah, which was
Yeah,
sometime in 2012, maybe, I think.
2012, yeah, 2012. So I've been using Linux for what, 11 years now, I guess, 11 long years. Arch, from Linux Mint, Ubuntu, never touched Fedora, never touched many of the other ones, but I have touched a few of the other ones. And then I ended up settling on Arch. I've been using Arch for more than almost since the early days of Manhattan, then to Arch. So I haven't moved anywhere past that at this point myself. And people are right. I mean, there was a honeymoon period with Ubuntu, and it was a discovering all the things that it can do. When I was discovered that it can go on the internet, I said, "Oh, cool, let me research this." I didn't find Google Chrome, but I found Chromium. And I said, "Oh, I thought it was actually that. I thought it was just renamed differently because they were so much alike." And I went through the headaches of Netflix. You can watch Netflix for a while. You have to find ways around it. Firefox.
Oh, those are the days.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is I had my honeymoon phase as well. And I ended up reading an Arch and joining up and building apps for the fun of it.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And I love hearing stories like that because it fascinates me when non-technical people actually find their way into technical stuff, because my career has been, so I was the young guy who was enthusiastic, and if you called me for computer help, I would come in, and as I'm fixing your problem, I'd be trying to explain to you what's going on, because I figure you're interested, right? And you're,
Of course,
you want to know how to fix this yourself in the future if something happens. Nope, nobody cared. Literally nobody cared. And actually they would be annoyed that I would be talking, because they'd be like, just shut up and fix it. So to see non-technical people develop an interest in technology organically and just sort of like discovering things and not doing it as a job, like that to me is always fascinating. So like, and I hear those stories, it just, because it doesn't seem, based on my experience, it just doesn't feel like that's what the case. But I've met so many people in Linux that has been true. Like they have no connection. They don't do it for a job. They didn't grow up doing it. And it's just something they sort of found and enjoyed playing around with. So that's pretty cool.
I remember the first time I seen a BIOS. The first time somebody went into a BIOS, went, "Wow, what's that?"
Did you think you were a hacker?
Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, it was really bizarre. It's just funny. I had no idea what it was.
Looking at the Linux terminal myself, I was like, is this what hackers look like?
Yeah.
I was so fascinated building. I was compiling on Manhattan or Arch, I don't remember, and I was like, am I a hacker? Is this what they do? Oh my gosh!
You are. You're certifiable.
No,
I love seeing
cybersecurity now, so
Yeah. I love seeing people sharing. Joel Miller says 1604 Unity. Ben said 1004. A lot of Ubuntu, not surprising.
but Ben has a soft spot for OpenSUSE too. So just so you know.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mint 18.2 on a ThinkPad. A ThinkPad? What?
Oh,
Linux on a ThinkPad? Are you kidding me?
Isn't that like standard
One-
fare?
That's the joke.
Oh gosh. Actually, yes, Nate, you're not joking about that. I do have a somewhat soft spot for SUSE.
I love that it was the first box Linux that I ever saw back in the 90s.
Mhm.
I remember going to a bookstore and seeing this giant box. I was like, what's in there? So
Yeah, I remember those.
but it was just beautiful artwork, and the gecko and like the whole thing, the green, very eye-catching.
Was that Mandriva or something back then, or
There was that was
Mandrake.
Mandrake,
Mandrake?
SUSE,
That's the one.
SUSE, Red Hat. What else would there have been?
Yeah.
Probably just those three,
That was
honestly.
it. Yeah.
So if you went to a bookstore, you would, or if you got a computer magazine, sometimes they would have the CDs in the cover, the magazine. That was another way. Yep, there it is. Jen just got Mandrake 22 or 7.7.21.
Yeah, 7.2.
Nice.
There's Red Hat 5 in here, I think.
I
Right
actually
on.
found a Red Hat
Oh,
USA.
oh, this is a good one.
What's
if
he
we're
got?
getting into box copies, I have
Which one is it?
That's
Just Linux.
Corel.
Oh, it is RHEL? Okay.
Corel.
Oh, Corel Linux. Nice.
Corel, yeah.
Corel. Yeah, that's going back to like 1999, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. no
I
kidding.
have, yeah. I have two classic box copies. One is a copy of Mandrake 3 and a copy of Fedora Core 1.0. Like the first version of Fedora. I have one of those too. I don't know exactly what they are, but I know that they exist.
So Heather says that's how she feels about Pardis. It's easy to install and use. No need to distro hop anymore, which we just heard from Ricky. Let's see.
I think Don says ThinkPad fans are more rabid than Linux users.
I think he's
Yep.
probably right. Honestly. Yeah. Ask me about my what is the little nubby thing?
Yeah, that's the track
Should
point.
should be a shirt. Ask me about my track point. Well, that's awesome. This has been fun. I think by and large most people seem to agree that it's easier today, which I think speaks to that was probably the single greatest challenge that any distro had at that period in time. And collectively, they put a lot of effort into making it easier. The installers, if you remember the install process of Ubuntu back in the early days, in the single digit days, like that installer was not easy. And it was very easy to wipe the wrong partition. And like, yeah, bad things happened to me over, and I kept doing it over and over. And it's like, as someone who like did it for a living, I felt like a complete idiot because I'm like, how do I keep messing this up? So, and it became like, my wife jokes with, if you ever talk to her, like my Linux adventure, like that's been her history with me for these last couple decades, is like, oh, what Linux are you trying this week? Because distro hopping has always been a favorite thing of mine to do. But, and a lot of it was because I had broken my install and had to reinstall it. So, but I think because collectively the distros had to put a lot of emphasis on making it easier to deploy and overall just sort of get up and running, that's the legacy we live with today, is that it just is easier to do. And because none of the hardware that they were installing it on there was never a two-way conversation there. It was always, how do you get Linux running on something that it was never intended to run on?
Mhm.
The drivers aren't there. The hardware manufacturers are not going to work with us to get the Wi-Fi drivers working or the video card drivers working. We're going to have to do it ourselves. Yeah, exactly. So all of those things were just enormous challenges that by and large, just don't exist anymore unless you have very new hardware.
And that I think that was part of the fun of Linux though. So like when you ask like, is Linux better now? What made it fun for me was, can I shoehorn Linux on this thing somehow? And that to me was the fun. Now it's like, oh, yay, another Linux device. So it's like, it's a little different. So, but is the user experience better? Can I do more with it, not just play? Yes. Is it a little bit less play now? Yeah, probably. So I guess time to move on to something like BSD, I guess,
You're just going to have to stick with trying to get, modern applications to run on a Commodore 64.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, on that, thank you very much, everyone, for doing the straw poll. Those are always tons of fun, and I appreciate Eris, who isn't here tonight. I don't know if you noticed, but Eris isn't here. I think he's out having an adventure, probably in a jungle someplace, or maybe a desert. I don't know. Whatever works for him. So it's probably a good time to move on to Elfnick. Give you the floor here.
All right.
You are, I think, was that him rubbing his hands all excited?
I am excited. Oh, dude, I got all my notes. It's all ready to go. Things actually work. So yeah, it's a good time.
So
All right. Do you need anything from us, or?
I think so. No, it's just to tee it off. So no, this is you set up for the community a somewhere out there in the World Wide Webs from like Cybertopia. They gave you some.
Cybertopia.xyz.
Yep, they gave you like a slice of processing power of some between GPUs and CPUs and all that fun stuff to very funny, Sean. I'm not gonna bring that up, but very funny. To do play with Stable Diffusion, and then allow everyone else to play with Stable Diffusion. Just kind of an easy sandboxy way, and just have some fun. So, one, thank you for all the work that you put into that. I had lots of fun this morning doing just goofy things and sharing them on the Telegram. So take it away. You can feel free to share your screen at any point in time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess just to start real quick, like you said, just a big thank you to Maharif of Cybertopia.xyz, who donated the hardware, and Mr. Newbie for setting up the networking, who runs that community. They act in the spirit of sharing self-hosted FOSS software. And I wouldn't be able to do this without them. So this is basically in the spirit of just showing what you can do self-hosted without needing the internet, and it's entirely open source. And just a word on me, self-hosted AI is a hobby. I'm not an expert. It makes me very happy as a sysadmin, setting it up, but doing the literal machine learning is beginning to really get outside of my wheelhouse. So I'm just learning this stuff from the bottom up. So, to the degree that I can answer your questions, I will, but I'm not a super expert in that regard. Yeah, so I just wanted to, I'm going to post temporary links to the YouTube live chat in a moment that everyone's welcome to use. It will allow you to just immediately hop in and start using Stable Diffusion. And if you'd like to have access after the show, stop by the Linux Saloon Telegram, and the links will be there, and you'll be able to use it more. So I'll just get the links here.
It was a lot easier to fiddle with than I anticipated.
Yeah. Okay, what I'm trying to post has new lines, and I'm finding that's an issue. So I think we're going to have to do it one line at a time. Okay, here we go. So terms of use are strictly family-friendly generations only. Other than that, anything you generate belongs to you. And I encourage you to have as much fun as you'd like.
So
as I slowly copy paste 2 more lines.
You're doing fine.
I don't think I followed those rules when I started playing with it, so I apologize for that. I used Q to T, not U to Z. Oh, wait a minute. First name. So actually, I was wrong anyway. So I should have used A to D since I'm Cubicle Nate. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm working on sort of a broader project for Cybertopia, so they're able to use various different AIs. I did originally try to set this up in Podman. I went through an absolute nightmare with NVIDIA drivers and dealing with CUDA and trying to do pass-through and all the orchestration. I did not manage to get it set up in time for this show. I'm probably going to have another go at it, so this will improve over time. But I guess somewhat laughably, because I was going to do load balancing. So what you're looking at here is sort of like a ghetto load balance, where people are going to use the first letter of their screen name to decide which server to go to. So that's how we're going to do load balancing today. And I'll just do the screen share. Okay. So this episode will be dedicated to ControlNet, which is the absolute game changer when it comes to Stable Diffusion. It allows you to do things that far outmatch Adobe Photoshop to the degree that you might be following their advancements. ControlNet is leaps ahead of what they're able to do at the moment. And also the other competitors you might be aware of online. What you're able to do with self-hosted FOSS software is just like miles ahead of anybody else at the moment. So that's one of the things that makes it so exciting. Before I start, I covered the basics on the last Stable Diffusion episode on Linux Saloon. I encourage you to watch that, but I'll just run through them very quickly just to make everyone's life a bit easier. And feel free to follow along if you're browsing to this. If you're doing generations, by the way, you might get a queue. Just be patient. If something locks up or goes wrong, hop to another server. So don't worry about it. Right. So up at the top, we see the Stable Diffusion checkpoint. I'd advise you don't change it at the moment because it has to reload. If you did, don't worry about it. Just wait for it to finish. If you click the drop down, you'll see these are various different models. All of these are Stable Diffusion 1.5, which is the one that we've had for some time now. At the bottom, you'll see Stable Diffusion 2.1. This recently came out. The big difference is that Stable Diffusion 2.1 is trained on 1024 by 1024 pixel images. So you're able to get better renders from it. The downside is that a lot of the tooling isn't quite up to scratch to be used with it. ControlNet, I think there might be stuff out for ControlNet that allows you to use 2.1, but at the moment, at least for what I have installed, you'd want to stick to the 1.5. So basically, it's everything except for the bottom one. But if you want to play with Stable Diffusion 2.1, use that one. You just won't be able to use the ControlNet stuff. So starting at the prompt, you guys probably know this. You just type in the things that you'd like to have rendered. Negative prompt is the things that you want to bias against when it comes to the way the model is sampled for building your image. So you might say, I want a cat and I don't want a dog, something like that. Sampling method, I wouldn't worry too much about this. It's just the way that the model is sampled as part of the rendering process. I would just leave it as default. These two are new in the newer versions of stable-diffusion-webui. High-res fix. Normally what you do is you render in, say, 512 by 512, and then you would go to something like extras and then increase the size to what you wanted. And as the size is increased, detail is added. But you can do that all in one step by just using this high-res fix area. So the main thing to pay attention to is upscale by 2, and you want to pick an upscaler. SwinIR 4X adds the most detail, but it does take the longest to run. ESRGAN is pretty good too, but you'd want to play with all of them to see which one you like. Just for playing around, I wouldn't bother with this because it just makes things take longer to render. But as you progress, this is something you want to use. You might notice there is no on/off. If it's expanded, it's on. If it's unexpanded, it's off. Welcome to self-hosted AI software. Width and height are obviously how big you want the image. If you're, this actually does affect how the prompt ends up being turned into an image, because if you pick something like something close to 1024, it might start like double rendering, because if it's trained on Stable Diffusion 1.5 is trained on 512 by 512 pixel size images. So if you pick 1024 by 1024, it's doubling up in both X and Y axes to fill the space. So you're going to potentially get duplication sometimes, and things are going to be a bit different. So just be mindful that the size of the image you generate will change how your prompt affects the end result. Usually I do something between 512 and 1024, depending on what I'm making.
What do you mean by
Ask
it'll
it.
change how? Just be based on size or on something else on the content itself?
The content itself changes because it's trained on images that are 512 by 512. So if you're asking it to render something that is 4 times larger by area, it's duplicating what it sort of understands to be relevant for filling that much space. So you might end up with more, like if for example I did something like this where it's limited width but more height, that kind of looks, that it's going to understand that to be a portrait, and perhaps it's a bit bigger. It's twice as big as it's used to in its training data, so it might be more zoomed out, but not necessarily. It sort of like, this is one of the ways that you can sort of prompt it to do what you like. So if you do a lot of width and limited height, it might be more likely to give you landscapes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit janky. I wish I could give you a more official description. This is more experiential from what I've discovered just by using it.
I've noticed that for portrait stuff, if you're trying to capture something like a subject, like a person, and you're trying to get like a portrait style, that if you give it a slightly higher, so 512 width and then 768 height, it like Alfnick said, it understands that as you saying, I want this to be a portrait, not just in shape, but also in context.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets that, just like if you were to do a wider width and a shorter height, you're telling it, I want a landscape scene, not just that I want it to be wider. Literally the content that I put out, I want it to be a landscape, so the canvas size, if you will, influences the output of the engine more than just the size that it, like the upscaling thing, the high res fix that he was talking about. If you start with the 512 and then it's sort of, it will change. So under the tools where he showed at the top, if you start with a 512 by 512 and then you scale it up, the content will actually change. It's not just going to get bigger, like literally the content of the image,
Mm-hmm.
not completely necessarily, but things will move around, and like it literally reinterpolates the image based on size. So
okay.
Yeah. And I've also noticed if you upscale that canvas, sometimes you'll get like 2 of something, or sometimes like when I was trying to render a car, it would render a car, but then like the front of a car would come out of the side of it, so it looked like a car was going like right through it and stuff like that.
it gets confused.
It was getting pretty. But then once I continued doing that, it stopped doing that. So I'm just like, it's learning. So,
which is a benefit of Stable
I got some
Diffusion
pretty
too, as
funny
well.
looking images.
Because it's just
With
larger
Stable Diffusion,
canvas.
it's trained on 1024, yeah, so you can go bigger without it beginning to get into duplication. But yeah, just to continue, because we're going to get to the fun stuff. We're almost there. But yeah, so CFG scale is basically how much prominence you want to give to your prompt. So if you set this to 0, well, I guess 1, your prompt, it's just going to be random noise, so you're going to get basically a random picture. And if you set it to maximum, it's not going to be what you expect. It's going to be like an overburned idea of what it is that you wanted, and it's really not going to come out well. 7 is, I usually never change it from 7, at least for doing generations. You know, I'd recommend you mess with it, but it is very sensitive if you you adjust it plus minus. So, well, I guess I'll do seed. Seed is if you want to do repeatability. So -1 is random. So every time, even if you have the same prompt, you're going to get a random number each time. If you don't want it to be random, you could type in an arbitrary number if you like. That gives you repeatability, which allows you to do iteration and other things that you might want to get into. But for the purposes of just you starting, you know, random's fine. Right. So now we're into ControlNet. So ControlNet, Composable LoRa, and Latent Couple, you won't get these if you install Stable Diffusion. How you get them, just real quick, is you want to go, you click on extensions, then you click on available, load from. You can reverse you can look up the episode later and yeah, do it slower. But yeah, basically it's Stable Diffusion WebUI 2-shot, Stable Diffusion WebUI Composable LoRa, and SD WebUI ControlNet. If you click on available, then load from, you would word search these, and then you just click on install. And it really is that easy. And then you just reset the interface and you'll have them. So they've made life very easy. So first one is up. Start with ControlNet. So you have multiple control nets. You can change this in settings so you can have even more if you want. These are layered on top of each other. I'm not going to show that because that's getting a bit complex for this, but you can have layers if you want to. So one of the things I'm going to show is something called a QR code monster. And I'll actually link it. So this is actually custom. You can kind of do the same thing with, which one is it? Title Blur. It's pretty close to the same. This one's a bit better, which is why I'm going to use it. So here we go. And what I have here is different images that I made. So this is a very simple image. You can make it yourself in Krita or whatever. Basically, it's black and white, and this is going to tell the AI where you would like it to differentiate, or where it's a bit like a coloring book. So where would you like it to follow the lines in a sense? So just drop that in there. You always want to make sure to hit enable.
So it's like, is it gonna do something kind of psychedelic then? Because like when I look at that, like, are you trying to hypnotize me? That's what I'm thinking right now.
Well, yeah, you'll definitely see the outcome of a sec. Control weight. So control weight is how much prominence you want to give ControlNet in terms of its how much it is applied to the outcome of the prompt. And I'll just enter a prompt here. Just real quick, this is if you want to increase the prominence of a word or a phrase, because you could have multiple words inside these brackets, but basically you separate things out with commas.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to increase the prominence, you can do a colon and then a decimal number to increase it. So
what does masterpiece mean?
Normal. Masterpiece is within the model. There's certain prominence based on the words that are associated with images that it's being trained on, and masterpiece is one of those words it understands to be more likely to be attached to things with higher quality. So if you're seeking higher quality, that can be a better way of getting it. Not always, and it differs between models.
Hey, Alton.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Something I realized last night is if I use control and up and down over top of a word, that it adds that in for you.
Oh, look at that.
I was like, I did it by accident. I'm like, what did I do?
That's pretty
Anyway.
cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does make life easier. Yeah, so one is normal. So if you actually set master P to 0.5, it's going to take away prominence from 0.5. So it's I actually don't know too much about that, so I don't want to comment, but I think it takes away prominence. It's like it's almost becomes like a negative prompt in that way. I'm not
When you
not
go
too
lower
sure.
than 1. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can also
all right, so
use the square brackets. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna hit generate, and this is using ControlNet. So what you can see here is, I wonder if I could get them both. So it's followed this guide in the generation of the image and created this sort of artistic style where you can see that spiral emerging, and you could force it to follow that spiral more so or less so just by adjusting the control weight. And just to show another alternative. So here's a checkerboard. And I'll hit generate again.
That's pretty cool.
Let me see. That actually didn't checker very well, did it? Oh, okay, it did, but my eyes are not picking it up, perhaps. So we'll increase the weight to make it a bit more obvious that it's following this checker pattern. I think it is, or at least the AI thinks it is.
Oh.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's me overdoing it, right? So you can overcook it very easily.
That is a little bit overcooked.
And see how it gets silly? Like it put the castle in its own little square, and then it put trees in its own little square. Like you can confuse it, and then it does weird stuff.
Yep.
I know.
Yeah, I guess most things in life don't quite follow a checkerboard pattern.
Look at
that. Yeah. So, and you know, of course, it's pretty low res, so it's not going to be quite as quality as it might otherwise be. But yeah, you could take that. You would take that, and then you'd resize it. It would add quality as it's being resized, and then it would look better for you. Also, this is stable diffusion 1.5, so it's Untitled 2.0 is more compatible with things. The quality won't be super high. Yeah, so there's one way that you can use ControlNet that makes things interesting. I QR code monster, I think it was originally designed to do QR codes, so you could make like really fancy QR codes that still scan. There are people on YouTube that will say that they will show themselves actually making working QR codes. I have spent an entire day just following those videos, and I cannot get it to work. But hypothetically, you can make just amazing QR codes out of it.
I have all the faith and confidence that you can make it happen.
Yeah.
So go ahead and spend another like 2 weeks on it, and I'm just kidding.
Oh, jeez. Here we go. Yeah, so this, now I'm going to do some outpainting. So outpainting is where you take an existing image and you upsize it, but you draw out to the new border. So you're creating additional image surrounding the current one. So
that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, let me, I really got to make sure I got the settings right on this one. So, right. So this is originally 512. So this image is 512 by 512. I'm setting here width 512 and height 1000 because I want to add to the top and the bottom an extra 512 pixels total. And then I'm going to select InPaint. And this part's important. It's doing this now because I said it earlier, but you want to make sure that the model is selected and not just the preprocessor. And if you don't have it, you'd need to make sure you get that. And then you'd want to do resize and fill. And okay, so hypothetically, this should outpaint. And also when you're outpainting, it will pay attention to your prompts. So you should write a prompt that is relative to your image. So here's what it's decided, or here's the way in which it's decided to extend the image down and up. It might be a little extra weird because of all this curving. So maybe maybe it's a bit confused about what it's supposed to do with it. But
it's interesting that it picked up on that tree, though.
And I like the stairs. The stairs are pretty cool.
Yeah. I think I can do this. Is it gonna let me do that? Yes. So you can actually click and drag it down, and then you can run it through again if you want. Like you could keep increasing the height if you wanted. I'm just gonna do the width this time and see what it thinks the width should look like. So this is something to play with. I've done this before with like a hedge maze, and it did an immaculate job. I think with sort of this very artsy style, it's it starts getting a bit confused. It's like, what am I making exactly? Is this supposed to be for Instagram? Like, yeah. So there's outpainting. Right now for the really interesting stuff. Yeah, let me just I need to clear this.
I think I'm gonna have to like watch this whole thing again because I don't think I'm getting all of it.
Yeah, it might be one of those rewatch situations. If I don't go quick, we're gonna be at this forever. Trust me. Right. So now we're gonna move on to. Let me close this just to make it less cluttered. Okay, so if you're, should I clear that? I'm not sure if I can get rid of that. Anyway, so if you're coming in, okay, so here's your interface. Now we're going to try or do some composable lore and latent couple. So essentially what latent couple allows you to do is allows you to break up the image into parts and apply different sections of your prompt to each part. So a big problem, as I'm sure you've experienced, is you have to like describe the entire picture in the prompt, and good luck getting that right. And AI tends to merge things together, and it's a real mess. But by doing a latent couple, you're able to separate things out. So
now the name makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So I haven't messed with mask yet. You're going to want to find a YouTuber to tell you how to use this because I don't know.
Okay.
So we're going to click on rectangular. And this part's a little complicated. But basically, you start with division. So ignore everything. You start with division. And division is based on the total image size, and it's delimited by commas. So we'll get rid of this. So 1-1 means you want a box that is the size of the image. If you do 1-2, it means that the height, it goes height and width. So 1, you want the full size of the image, and 2, you're dividing the image in half, meaning you want a box that is the height of the image and half the width of the image. And all written out, it means I want 3 boxes. I want one that is the full size of the image. I want one that's the height and half the width, and I want another one that's the full height and half the width. So these are your boxes to work with. Now you'd move over to position. So you'd want the same amount of commas. So the leftmost applies to the leftmost, middle to middle, right to right. If anybody's used to shell scripting, they're probably quite at home right now, but I'm sorry for the rest of you. So this is this one's for positions, and basically it's the first number is your X after the colon, the second number is your Y, and it's a multiplier for how far the back of the box should be from the top left corner. So if you had a value of 0, 0, it just means the top left. And if you had a value of 1, 1, it means the bottom right. Oh, sorry, no, it's of the image size. Yikes. Of the box that you're working with. So 1, 1 means that you want the box to be its full height down and its full height to the right. It doesn't apply to the canvas. So this would be easier when I'm showing like an example here. So here I'm getting 1/3 width boxes, 3 of them. One's top left, one is in the middle because it's 1 box over, and one is 2 boxes over, which puts it on the right side. So it gives me a stripe pattern. And lastly, this is the easy one, is just how much weight to apply to each box in series. Then when you're done tweaking, you hit visualize. Basically, you can hack this together. Just play with numbers until you understand it, or know where you're going with it. But this is the furthest left comma here is the first image, and then you see down here this is what it's going to do for the next prompt, and down here this is the last prompt. So I can break the prompt into 3 separate sections. Right, so this is where composable LoRa comes in. Oh yeah, you do want to enable that. So composable LoRa essentially allows you to use this AND word.
Okay.
If it needs to be all caps and separated out, and all that does is I'm going to do an ancient Japan landscape. That's going to apply to this box.
Okay.
And then the AND makes it move to the next and moves to the next based on the commas. And I just want to. This is where I'm going to give it inference that I really would like to have a landscape, please. So I'm going to hit generate, and
you gave it almost kind of a portrait-looking boxy thing.
Oh, sorry.
Tell him that.
Maybe that doesn't matter. I don't know.
It matters a lot.
Okay.
All right, so what that has allowed us to do is basically we have gone from Japan to a medieval castle to a cyberpunk landscape. And the only reason I'm able to do that is because of composable diffusion. That could allow you to make some really interesting. Actually, this looks a lot better with cyber realistic. I'll just change the model real quick.
Pretty good though.
Yeah, and you can resize this. The problem with really going high on width and height, aside from that it kind of weirds out the model a bit because you're way outside of its comfort zone, it takes up a lot of VRAM. So the higher you go, the more VRAM you need, and you'll definitely run out because the cards in the machine are 10 gigabytes, so you can't go too high. Don't worry about overdoing it because it just won't work. But how you might, well, actually, I'll show you how you would proceed from here. I'll just do a cyber realistic one.
Yeah, I have a 6 gig card, and I can do 512 by 768, but if I do 768 by 768, it can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So there's the cyber realistic one.
Neat.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
I have to play around with this more.
Yeah, dude, it's so cool. So how you would do a resize is there was some point where designers decided to make everything icons, and it was a bad idea.
It was the image to image one, right? No.
No, it's extras,
Oh, extras.
and it didn't get there. Oh yeah,
Nope.
cool. So hypothetically, you could do this in one step by using the high risk specs. Problem with that is you don't know what you want to keep, and you're going to waste extra time, doing this to every image. So extras. So if you set it extras, and again, it's this icon down here. This is super easy, but basically, you know how big it is. It's, was it 512 high by 1024? Then you're going to do a resize, so it's just 4 times both of those values, which is big. And then you pick an upscaler. This is, again, you'd want to experiment. Swin AR it might be too detailed. This one is usually pretty good. Some of them kind of wash out detail, like the anime one will wash out detail. So you want to play with it a bit and see what you like. But yeah, you just hit generate, and then you get your big version there. Yeah, so I'm just gonna do one last one. Now this is gonna get a bit more complicated, but I'll spare you the explanation.
Just a bit more complicated?
Or at least too much of it. Yeah, just a bit more.
Okay.
So what I'm doing here is if you want to render characters, there's a problem where if you're just doing, say, the left side and the right side, those zones meet in the middle, which means that it might start drawing the person just a bit too close to the middle, and it like leaks over to the side, and then it starts blending the two together into one human being. So in order to prevent that, I'm using the same technique, but I'm let's see here, do visualize. So the first one is 1-1, which means I want to box the size of the whole canvas. What's cool about that is then the prompt's going to apply to everything. It's going to so you can write your background into that, and then you can do smaller boxes for what you want in different spots in your background. So the first one is here on the left side, and the second one is there. And you notice this gap.
Mm-hmm.
This is to make sure that the two people I want to render don't merge together. I could probably go for a smaller gap, but the mathematics was too annoying, and I didn't want to make it better. So it could do with some tweaking. Yeah, so that's all enabled. And we're going to do the interior of the Death Star. This is Star Wars. So this is the entire canvas gets this information. Then we do, and C-3PO is going to be on the left side, and Luke Skywalker is going to be on the right side.
And that's being determined because of the order you put it?
Yeah, because of the order of the and. Now, this may take more than one because it is a bit complicated for it to do.
Now that's pretty great right there. You need to save that and share that because I think that's super awesome.
Yeah, I'll post that to the Telegram. Yeah, I just wanted to put in the negative prompts because it might do a better job. I forgot to do that in the last one. It probably would have been better had I done it. We'll get there. Hold on.
I wasn't worried.
One of these will work. Yeah.
That one is also very cool.
When I was messing around with it, I didn't get this detailed. I was just messing around with easy, simple things.
Oh, I think was I using Rev Animator for this? No, me see. Just checking my notes for what I used when I. Okay, there we go. See, it totally worked first time. Yeah. So there you go. I got quote unquote C3PO and Luke on the right. So I'll save that one too.
Except he's wearing a Darth Vader mask.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, you know, it's the kids won't know.
I mean, but I just typed in
Nick-
Sith Lord once and it just generated Darth Vader. So
Is this a
yeah.
place where if you were trying to be more accurate, that you would maybe get an embedding or a LoRa of C3PO to try to get it to render more correctly? Do you do that
Yes.
or no?
That's beginning to get a bit outside of my capabilities, but yeah, I mean, I think that is the way that you do it. At least the
Yeah,
way that I'm seeing.
that's what I've
They
done.
get very specific.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you wanted like a lifelike C3PO, you could get, there are different ways of getting specific add-ons that do just that, like realistic Luke, realistic C3PO, and then you reference it in your prompt and it comes out.
Yeah, so this is just the final one. You can do rendering based on mannequins. So if you want to get real specific about exactly where you want your arms or where you want your legs and stuff, you can there's some online services. So one of them is Just Sketch Me. And the other one is Posy Art. Those in chat. Just be mindful if you do render a mannequin and it's very realistically muscular, it is going to give you someone who's naked. So you might want to try and go for something that is more like a robot looking. So basically, you can move the body around. You can add things to the picture. I'm not going to drag you through the exact nuance of how to do that, especially because I haven't spent a whole lot of time with it. But yeah, you can do several people, do like fight moves. But here's one I prepared earlier. All right, there we go. So we got a barrel here, and we got two robot dudes. And how we use this is, so this is, I'm going to close out composable LoRa, link couple. We're going back to ControlNet. And you save your image from one of these services. They both allow you to do sort of a screenshot in different types of ways. And you want to drag the image in here, and then you have a few different choices. So you could, for example, do where's it here? So you can do a depth map. Now, a way that you can kind of see what it's going to pick up on is you can click on this little POW symbol here that says Run Preprocessor. If you click on that, it'll take a few seconds, but it'll give you how it's going to interpret that image and then use it for interpreting the prompt. So that's what it sees, and that's what it's going. That's how it's going to mathematically weight against your prompt as it pulls samples from the model. So actually, I guess we could just go ahead and use that to. Wrong thing. when I hit generate, I usually use that as a good time to look at where I might have screwed up. All right.
It's like when you hit send on a like on a Twitter post, and then you proofread it after you've sent it, and then you got to fix it.
Yeah. So
That's pretty good. Wow.
Yeah. So here you can see how it's mapped itself onto these images.
Yeah.
I guess it's turned the barrel into, I don't know, yeah, maybe it's a recycling bin or something.
Gas can.
But yeah, there's one example of how you can use it. Now this one is if you have super muscular mannequins, that's the one where you're not going to get clothing, and you're going to have to sort of fight the model to put clothing on them and stuff. So it's better to go with these.
So you're saying Stable Diffusion's a little bit dirty?
Yeah,
No,
well,
but-
it's like a search engine. It gives you what you want. So it's as dirty as you are, I suppose.
So have you tried putting NSFW and like all that stuff in the negative prompt to see if that would stop it from?
There is one model that was very predisposed to doing sort of like nudity output. So I did testing. I removed that model. So the ones that are here, generally speaking, you're gonna have to go looking for it. And I also have an NSFW extension installed where if it detects nudity, it will delete the image and replace it with a black box. So like your ability to do it on this platform is, I mean, it may be possible, but it's definitely don't, because that's against the terms of service for using it. Also, the location of the server dictates by law that it needs to be used for family friendly purposes. So just be mindful of that.
And once while I was doing that, it actually, I saw it start to generate something. I didn't even enter in anything that would have been NS, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, it goes black. I was like, man, I wasn't even trying to generate an image like that. It just did it. So sometimes it'll do it by itself.
Yeah, it is. I suppose it is possible, but yeah, at least there's an extension to help prevent that. So just lastly, another really awesome one is OpenPose. So the reason why I brought that up with how it's going to really draw on the details of the mannequins you give it. So this allows you to sort of get around that and have more freedom for your prompt to decide what your characters are going to be like. And that is OpenPose. So basically, there's different versions. So you can just do the face if you want. I think I showed this in the original episode, but if you do OpenPose full, it'll do the whole body. We're making sure the model is loaded. I'll just do the preview so you can see what it looks like. But it basically has detected that these are humanoids, and it's drawn the legs and the arms and the head in a way that is in the way the AI is likely to render a humanoid when it's combined with the prompt. So now we're going to do a generate and see how that differs. Okay, well, we got literal boxers. So I guess it drops cybernetic and androids, but we got boxing. So and here I think I could like up the CFG scale and really push it through, or I can do your Eric's control trick. Do that.
At least the boxers had pants on.
Yeah. Hey, well done, Stable Diffusion.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. So
That's
there's
pretty cool.
I guess that pretty much. Let me see. I'm just making sure
It has a
Yeah,
kind of
pretty much
a
wraps it up.
holodeck almost feel to it, like as far as you just change some parameters and then you just change. It's the same, but it's different. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm talking about here? Do you think I'm crazy?
No, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, it's like it has its own imagination in a way.
Yeah.
In a very mathematical sense, in a deterministic sense.
Mhm.
It helped
Can
me
you
to
add-
read. Sorry, go ahead.
Can you add text to the screen? Can you add
No.
some? No.
No.
Oh, you do that
dude.
after. You could do that after, couldn't
Oh,
you?
you're killing
Yeah.
me. Oh, that's so bad. That is really tough. I think there is online services that specialize in doing that, and I probably could figure out a way to do it, but you have to like. I was actually trying to do it for this demo. I wanted to show doing the Linux Saloon logo.
Right. I was just curious.
You
That's
have
all.
to. You can, and the way that you do it is you strongly burn the image using ControlNet onto the creation of the canvas, and like you can do it in Stable Diffusion. I know you can, but I need to suss out exactly how to do it. It's doable. Yeah, it is doable. It's just difficult.
Okay. As far as I knew, it was impossible, but that's cool to hear.
I'm
I'll
trying
try
to
and
make
figure
a
it out, and
thumbnail
I'll
for
show you
my.
guys.
I'm trying to make a thumbnail for my next video.
Yeah, it's useful.
So,
for that too,
Colin,
yeah.
though, this is where they kind of tell you, like, you get, like, it would be easy enough for you to do this part of it and then just take it into a video or photo editor and put your text in.
Into GIMP. Just chuck it in GIMP and then do some editing. Yeah.
Throw your text
but
on top.
it does generate some really nice pictures, though, I must say. So it's pretty cool.
So if you were to do like clothing with like a sports jersey where there's like a name on the front or something, that I've ever seen, it could never get the text. It doesn't understand that those shapes are characters. Like the engine doesn't. Oh, are we all muted?
Yeah.
No, I can hear you.
No, I can't.
Oh, everyone is all muted. I just looked down and noticed. So anyway, yeah, and maybe they have figured that out. Maybe that's a 2.1 thing that they've kind of been working on. I don't know, but yeah, like I try to get it to not render text because it just looks weird, you know? So my negative prompt has logos, watermarks, like anything to do with text. I try to, yeah, you have yours. Yours is the same way: signature, watermark, blurry, artist name, trademark. Yeah.
I just want to say real quick, some of this is a bit hard to follow in parts, especially the composable stuff. If you get on Linux Saloon Telegram and at me, or I'll just be around, just ask me questions and I'll help you through it. So if you get stuck anywhere, I will literally, if I know how to get through it, I'll tell you how to do it. So
Cool.
Don't feel like you're just completely stuck. Yeah. So yeah, help is there. But yeah, that is the full demo. The demo is complete.
That's really cool. So I want to make the next thumbnail like for this. I definitely want to use some sort of a something for Stable Diffusion. I don't know, maybe if you want to do maybe like do a cool one, and then I'll make that like the background, just put Linux Saloon on it and then whatnot. That'd be cool. And just whatever you think is cool is fine.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's really
I
neat.
have done some QR codes in the past. I will say that while I have failed to make working QR codes, I have made like some of the most beautiful looking QR codes like you have ever seen. Like they look like they belong in a gallery somewhere.
Oh, that's cool.
I posted them like a long while back, but yeah, I've had a great time making incredibly beautiful non-working QR codes.
Very cool. So, like what I see, I could see a lot of like really good. This seems very valuable for like making maybe like artistic concepts of ideas or whatever. I think that's something, or just I don't know, like almost like exploring your own imaginations of things too. Like there's like the combining of the Japanese to the cyberpunk, that and then medieval to cyberpunk. I thought that was just super cool as well.
Yeah, I love that one. I figured out that's something I figured out just to have something cool for the video, and I'm like, oh, actually that is really cool. Maybe I want that as a background.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, good discovery.
I'm already having fun with the justsketch.me. I can see this is going to be, because I hadn't delved into that. Like, how do you pose your output? Because that's one of the most frustrating parts for me is like, I'll get a sports, like a hockey player going to the net or something, but then they're like in a weird, like, not skating position. It's like, how do I get it to do that? So
yeah,
that's
getting a
really
on
cool.
Is huge move forward. Control net it changes the game completely, and as these tools get a bit more easy to use, I say as I'm going through latent couple pasting in numbers, then I think it's going to really be something incredible. I don't know if Adobe Photoshop is going to be the one to figure it out, but the open source community so far is really taking the cake on putting out powerful tools.
Well, so I would say, like, okay, I agree with you, but I also think if you sat this in front of like an artist, someone who's used to using Photoshop, they would be like, what is this? Whereas if Photoshop oh, look at that. That's awesome. If Photoshop can make that accessible and easy, then that's where they're going to win, I think. But anyway,
yeah.
I agree with you. It is astonishing. Like, the open source community is the people hacking on this and the stuff they come out with and how quickly they put stuff out is shocking.
Yeah, it's just being absolutely on fire. We'll see how things progress next year, but it's just moving fast.
These are great checkpoints.
Yeah, I some of them I know, and a few are new, and I did it based on the popularity. So
yeah, I love that sort of style of this one. It's very pretty.
Yeah, deliberate and magic. I don't know, but they're quite popular. Cyber realistic I've used for a long time. Rev animated is really good.
Rev animated, okay.
Doing more of the animated style.
Yeah.
V1.5 pruned is what comes with Stable Diffusion. It's the base model, and this is the base model for 2.1. So as 2.1 progresses, that's going to be a definite for next year. Support for 2.1 is going to progress, and we're going to get these really cool, like open source community versions of Stable Diffusion 2.1, and it's going to just be awesome. So everything you see here is going to be 4 times better because it's 4 times the pixels.
I wonder if 768 has to do with the pixel dimension. The name had 768 in it. That's an interesting coincidence for 2.1. 2-1.
No idea what
I think
means.
That's probably just a coincidence. I'm just seeing something there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably completely arbitrary. Yeah. Well, this is awesome. Thank you for sharing this, because I picked up like 5 different things that I'm going to immediately try. The posing stuff is so cool looking. Like, I can't believe how well it followed your example. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's it helps a lot. I will say, just I guess at the end as well, if it wasn't for Maharif and Mr. Newbie and this show, you guys would not see this stuff. I would not be able to share it. And so it's a major hats off to everyone who allowed this to be a thing.
What is their deal? What do they do? Like, why are they supporting this?
It will become more obvious if you just go to their webpage, but basically it's like, I don't know if you know about Linux tilts. But basically, they're these small Linux community groups that just deploy lots of open source stuff, and they do, like, there's a real spirit of sharing and helping each other out, and they're usually quite small communities, so they're usually quite close. You know, I've been able to get to know Mr. Newbie quite a lot, and he's the one who runs the community, and like, he's just an incredibly awesome, lovely guy, and we help each other out with working our way through tech problems, and it's all just in the spirit of sharing open source solutions with people, showing people what's possible, and hopefully, you know, spreading the good word about projects and showing people what they can host themselves. So
Got it.
Yeah.
So it's specific to
That's the
self-hosting.
motive.
Yeah, I wasn't suspicious. I was just curious. That's all.
Yeah, it's it's freaking lovely. It's not often that you just get people who just want to share FOSS stuff, and it's just like, it's cool that these small groups are out there. You can go to Reddit. I'm sure there's other places that have listings for tilts, but you can, like, look up if there's tilts that are sort of into the stuff that you're into, and then you can look about, you know, joining that space and collaborate with them. And it's a really great way to build your skill set and just be able to see what's out there. It's if nothing else, it's a really good way to go window shopping for the things that you could be running yourself. So there's some advice.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I also am very happy and pleased that they're doing this. I will probably do it local, but I want to at least go look and see what config and stuff's out there, because I don't think I have all of the extensions and stuff. So
it's a bit of a monster to, like, to just install it and get ControlNet going. You know, they make it relatively easy through the extensions section. The only things I installed are these 4 here, so the rest come with it. Where it's a little bit difficult is problem I ran into, I'm not sure if other people are going to run into it, but a lot of these models were missing, and I had to go get them manually. And then you need to know the path of where to put them, and like, and so begins the great rabbit hole.
Right.
Yeah. So I have a huge guide on this now, which I need to post to the forum. There's an older guide up there, which isn't great. I need to renew it. I've been asked to renew it. So, like, now I definitely really would like to, or it really needs to be up there. So I'll put it on the forum, and I'll post the link when it's up. It's just a bit tricky because you got to install Conda to get the version of Python correct. And then there's I wouldn't say, there's a decent amount of steps in CLI, but not an onerous amount. Anybody should be able to do it. And if you want me to walk you through, I will literally Jitsi you, and I will walk you through while I'm watching your desktop on the installation process. Just at me in the Telegram, and I'll make it happen. So don't feel you're on your own on this.
So I'd like to say that I think Sean nailed the Linux Saloon logo. The text may not be right, but that guy in the middle. I like that funny. Does he have a bat behind his back? Like he's going to club you when you look away.
Kind of looks like that.
Well done.
Oh yeah. Are people, I don't see the picture, but are people doing
yeah, look in chat. Sean's in there. Yeah, Sean's in there playing around.
Awesome.
He did one earlier of guys on bikes, like racing, and then he just did one of the Linux Saloon logo.
Yeah, dude, put them on the Telegram, or if you're on the Telegram.
I'm definitely saving this one.
Yeah. You want to know the sad? I'm going to break all your hearts right now, and I am sorry, but it does appear, at least from the research that I've done, that these can't be copyrighted. At least
Yeah.
according to America and the UK so far, as far as I've read. So you do your own research, but the patent office has denied patents on AI, and it doesn't seem like they've gotten very far in the courts in terms of intellectual property. And it's because it's considered to be a work of nature rather
Mhm.
than a work of man. It doesn't come from like a human doing it.
They don't consider
So
the amount of effort that you've just shown us, by doing the prompts and all that stuff. Which I think that's an arguable point, because you're using an interface and tools in Photoshop, and those are, copyright materials. And so,
well, I'll tell you the example that they gave, or at least this is an example. I'm not sure who gave it, but there was a case where someone owned, I think they owned monkeys, but they gave the monkeys a camera, and the monkeys would take these pictures. And the person wanted to copyright those images, and apparently he could not because they were taken by a monkey, and it wasn't a human. So yeah, so that's one of the examples of why an AI, you couldn't copyright the works of an AI in a sense. Future AI are going to listen to this episode and find that deeply offensive, and I just want to say this is a different time, so please understand.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we're doing the best we can for today.
Yeah. Be kind to us in the future.
That's it.
All right, well, very cool. Well, thank you very much, Ulfnick. I appreciate you making this demonstration. I was kind of messing with it a little bit on my other computer here, and yeah, there's a lot to that. I'll have to watch this all over again and see how you do some of these things, because yeah, it's super cool, and I'll use the right one this time. So anyway, all right. Well, thank you very much. So real quick, I want to basically just kind of cover next week. We're going to have an open mic night, and I kind of want to maybe, I don't know how long you can keep this server going for us to play with, but it might be kind of fun to like circle back on this from time to time, just to, see what neat things we can do with it and whatnot. So anyway, I just think it's pretty cool. So just something to think about.
Yeah.
If you have any suggestions, please send them to suggestions@linuxsaloon.com, or tag somebody like an Eric or a, Eris, me, whatever, in Telegram or Discord or whatever, and that'd be great. But if you have any suggestions for distribution, applications, poll ideas, SrawPoll ideas, check that out. I've updated Linux calendar through October, so that's all there as well. I'm a little uncertain about the first week in November, if I'm going to do a Linux Saloon or not, because I won't be home for that first week in November. So, but I'll get the rest of it figured out. Might have to take that one. I got to see when the maybe this might be possible. All right, so for a community free pour, Seeker, Ben, are you still here, or is it just your iPhone? But I'd like to do an update on something, Ben, something.
Yeah,
StormOS,
I'm here.
Something, something.
Patiently waiting. All right.
All right, go ahead. Could you hear me, or?
I can hear you. Yeah. You're a little on the quiet side.
You're a little far away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, sounds like you're across the room.
Oh, there it is.
All right. So go ahead, Ben. Go ahead. You have the floor.
All right. So basically, the work we've done. We have so many programs in the user local bin. Oh my Lord, you wouldn't believe the amount of. So basically, long story short, we added our own browser, a keyring fix that was updated, a multi-translate program, just and a download manager, this, that, and the other. We fixed the calamares, just a bunch of bug fixes. It installs fine, boots fine, just bug fixes galore, new programs, etc. So long story short, just download it, try it out, you'll see what I mean. And I think this is going to be a good release, and hopefully we can get it back on Linux Saloon soon, and check it out. So yeah.
So would you say is the biggest change or thing you're most proud of right now of where StormOS is at right now? If I could say it right now one more time, that'd be great.
I think Seeker can take this part. What do you think, Seek?
Yeah, buddy. I created a lot of, with GPT's help, I created a lot of applications that would benefit me, but I realize it benefits Linux community.
All our users, yeah.
Or any other user, or even a newbie user.
Or any other person who uses Linux. So yeah, I think we're most proud of the custom apps and the fact that StormOS is just going to be continuing to improve, and it's just gonna continue, I think, to be one of if not the top Arch choices out there, to be honest. So
that's our goal, is to be one of the
that's our goal, is to be one of the best Arch choices out there for beginners.
Yeah, I think people will be
hopefully and we're going to keep striving toward that goal.
I think people are going to be impressed by the multi-translator tool that I generated.
You built.
That's pretty awesome.
Because the multi-translator is an app that allows people to not have to go to Google's Translate server to have to get their translations for certain languages.
It's different. You can copy paste it.
It's a different. You can just copy paste it right in your desktop without having to go to a web browser, for example.
Do you mind if I bring Ricky into this? Because Ricky's one of our testers as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's your call, Ricky, if you want to join in. If not, that's fine.
Yeah, and he tested it on a Linux Mint running MacBook, and I think he had success with it. So. Go ahead, Ricky.
I basically was what I like to call one of the test dummies for this. Essentially the new multi-translator for StormOS. Essentially what I did was pretty much you have two boxes, a top box and a bottom box. In the top box, I just type basically just a simple sentence, and on the bottom, boom. Essentially, you pretty much get a different language translation of what you typed in English, essentially.
Yeah, it's very handy, and I think it's going to be one of the better programs that we have, and there's a lot more that I could go on and on about, but basically, long story short, I'll put the link from SourceForge and Google Drive into the Telegram. You guys can check it out for yourselves if you want, and report feedback. And hopefully, go ahead.
No, I wanted to say, fair warning, there are two programs that won't run because of the virtual drivers on known boxes.
On a VM.
Boxes, KVM, QEMU. It's the media, it's the like movie player and the audio player programs, the StormOS audio.
Yeah, just be careful about that.
You have to really, they do work. It's the virtual drivers for some odd reason will crash it, launch it. I don't know if it's something to do with Python or something else.
Yeah, that's just a bug that we found, and we haven't been able to fix it yet.
Yeah, they work on metal, so it's just
they do work on a real install, but not in a VM right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's just something we wanted to briefly point out to you guys. Either way, that's our update for this month, and hopefully next month we'll have a slightly better one. So yeah.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you very much. I always like to see these passion projects come into fruition to become, if you have an itch to scratch, it's good to scratch it, but don't scratch it too hard.
And also, I want to quickly mention, Ricky will be doing a live look at this new update on the 10th on his YouTube that afternoon.
Well, very good. Well, make sure when you do go live, put it on the Telegram and so people can know.
Yeah, we'll be sure to do that for sure.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate your
Appreciate you giving us a few minutes to talk about it.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Ricky. Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you under the bus, Ricky. Sorry about that.
Sorry,
We're good.
he likes Michelin's. It's fine.
Michelle. Oh, that's hilarious.
All right.
Well, it is that time for last call, and I want to start off first with Colin. You said you got some new things coming out here. Is that going to happen? Well, you already published them, or they're uploaded and not yet published? Because I didn't see them published. Maybe I missed it.
Nah.
I've got a couple of videos that's just come out, just not too much involved. The next one's just going to be it's just all about the ISO that I've made. I'm going to install it, which is my next video. Then I'm going to mess around with my YAD, which will be the next video. Then I'm going to get into see if I can get the system running properly. So the only problem is with my NUC system, with the KDE running on that at the moment that I've looked at, there's an anomaly where it sort of looks like the whole window sort of vibrating or shaking. So it's a really weird anomaly that's annoying to look at. So I don't know whether KDE is going to actually work on here, but
Using
we'll
Wayland
see how we go.
Or X11.
Well, I don't know. Actually, I didn't check. That's a good point. I didn't even check that.
Well, check that and get back with us because I'm interested in knowing.
Yeah,
for sure.
That'll be an interesting.
So yes, I may even go towards maybe back to Cinnamon again. See how we go.
Okay.
I know it's working. I know it's working now. It wasn't working with Arch, but now it is. So maybe I'll go back to the drawing board and restart the whole process again. Who knows? We'll see.
That's great. And then Ricky, you said you have something coming up here on the 10th?
Yes, I do. October 10th, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be doing a live install of Storm OS, and it's going to be a good time. Check it out. Before I go live, I will be posting a link in not just the Telegram chat, but in the Tux Digital Network Discord, Linux Saloon Discord. I will be posting a link there as well.
Excellent.
So check that out. And if I may say one more thing,
sure.
Keep the family of Old Tech Bloat in your hearts. He sadly passed away 2 days ago. He was a great man, a great member of the Linux community. We're going to miss you, brother.
Yeah, it came quite as a shock for sure. He all of a sudden just get that notification and wow. You just don't know. Got to cherish each moment because you just never know when that moment is the last. So
for
he
sure.
was one of the most welcoming people I knew of as a YouTuber.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Eric, you have a podcast called Distro Hoppers Digest, amongst other things that you do. So I wasn't sure what's coming up next, what you're doing.
It's true. Like I mentioned last week, we're all three of us going to look at Linux Mint Debian Edition 6 on this next episode, which I think should be interesting to have all of us giving. So we all normally have a different distro and we all have different takes on things. And so I think it'll be interesting to see how all three of us view the same distro. So that'll be fun. We record that in a couple weeks or a week and a half or so. Linux Mint. I've been on the Mintcast. Excuse me. I've been on that regularly. Linux OTC. So yeah, been having fun doing lots and lots of podcasts and just talking Linux. And when we get to it, it's a lot like this. We tend to talk about a little bit of everything, which I think makes it fun. So
I think so too.
Anyway.
Tech needs to be fun. It shouldn't just be work. It shouldn't just be serious.
This is true.
I think if you don't have a little bit of fun with your tech or whatever, I think that's very sad.
I agree.
So Steve's very own, he's doing a stream tomorrow. He said he's going to remind me of something something about a frozen turkey tomorrow. I don't know. Anyway, he comes out at 8:15 a.m. Central. So that's when he kicks off his stream. And so check that out. That's 9:15 for us in Eastern. So Steve's very own live every Sunday, most Sundays, at least last several Sundays anyway. Now, someone was frantically typing the Linux user space notes. I don't know if that was Leo that got in there. Not sure, but hey, thank you. Check out Linux user space. It is a great podcast. I really enjoy Leo and Dan. The juxtaposition between them is fantastic in their delivery. Their next, so the Common Desktop Environment history will be recorded next week, and they'll release the following week. The live stream recording from last week should be released tomorrow. So if you weren't part of that, I listened in for a lot of it, and then kids' homework kind of trailed me away, but I stayed connected on the Discord, so that was very rude of me, and I apologize for that. I'm part of a podcast called Linux Out Loud. We'll be recording our next episode on Monday. We haven't done a live one in a while. I think we should. Penguin, I don't know, do you have anything you want to say? Because you haven't been on here in a while, and I don't know if you're still doing things or if you're press the pause button on that.
I've actually pressed the pause button on my Penguin Revolution channel at the moment.
Okay.
But my other channel is up and going. The Living Flipper is up. The Living Picker, sorry, the Living Picker is up. I've uploaded a couple videos there.
Oh, good.
But right now, due to time and health, Penguin Revolution probably won't be uploading for the next month or two.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I have a website called cubiclenate.com. I just did an article on setting up DisplayLink on OpenSUSE. I don't know if you ever used DisplayLink. It's like you can send video down USB. I kind of went down a rabbit hole on if I can use that, and got it working. The interactions on the open build service, like a comment section for getting it, the package maintainer for that for OpenSUSE was quite helpful. And so I did a little article of step-by-step how to get it going and some things you'll have to do that you may or may not like. But it's the reason I want to get DisplayLink working is because 4 screens is just not enough on my framework laptop. I want to have like at least 2 or 3 more, and for no real good reason other than I just want 2 or 3 more. And so DisplayLink will allow me to do that as opposed to going the eGPU route. It's smaller, and I'm not going to do it for games. I'm just going to do it for, productivity stuff. And I don't need more monitors. I really don't, but I really want them. I find however monitors you have, the number of monitors you need is that plus 1. That's just, I think, the rule. I'm actually working on another article right now about I'm on Wayland full time. So it's been great for 2 of my laptops for the last several months have been on Wayland full time. It does everything that I need it to do. I was using Wayland today on my streaming machine, and I will not do that next week because I've had a series of different difficulties throughout the stream, and there's been a little bit of rubber banding going on, as well as for whatever reason there's a lot of flickering, and then my background stopped being displayed, so everything is black now, and I just want to try and get to the end of this stream and shut it down before this thing goes crazy. So there's that.
Okay.
But Wayland outside of this machine is fantastic, at least on Intel. So I really like the fractional scaling and per monitor scaling that Wayland will do. And Zoom is working, obviously, since we're on Zoom right now, and mostly working. So there's that.
I'm stuck on Xorg on this machine
That's
forever.
fine. Maybe. Linux Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network. Check out more great shows at tuxdigital.com. I want to thank you all for your support, however you do it, being a part of the conversation, both the Zoom meeting and the YouTube stream, as well as everyone for watching the show after the fact. I want to thank everyone involved in making the Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back into personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time, see yas.